are wanting us to complete. We've been out of compliance for a very long time, and now they're wanting a report to show us when the faculty member actually submitted the roster, the date and time, so, and to certify that it was completed. This will satisfy that requirement, okay?
Go ahead and select this Chemistry 70901. Now, one thing to note here is you don't want to click General Chemistry or the CRN number, even though those look like links. You basically want to click anywhere else in this line. And as I move my mouse, this turns kind of a light bluish gray. Anywhere in here, I can click and it will bring up my drop roster. And so from here, I just want to find the student or students that I want to drop. And then where it says action, I choose the appropriate action. So I'm just going to choose this first student right here, 8 Murphy. And I click this little arrow under action. And I have two options here. It says either drop before census or no-show. So no-show, this is just a student who has never come to class. If that's the case, you go ahead and choose no-show, or you can choose drop before census, which is a student that you need to drop for whatever reason, as long as you're doing it before the census date. So you do want to make sure that any students that need to be dropped, especially for no-show, you get done before the census date. Otherwise, you have to do a drop exception form with A&R. But I'm going to go ahead. 8 Murphy has never shown up to class, so I'm going to click no-show there. And then I'm going to come down here to 17 Isabella Murphy. Make sure I'm to the right one. Again, in that action column, for this one, I'm going to choose drop before census. And that's it. Those are the two students that I want to drop from this course. And now I need to scroll down to the bottom to do a couple of things. One, make sure that there's only one page of students in case there are other students I might need to drop on another page. And then I need to make sure that I click submit. So there's a couple things that we need to click here. So I'm going to start by clicking submit. And it's going to show me those two students that I just chose to drop. I'm not done yet. If I move away from this page and I don't do this next step, these students aren't really dropped. It's just going to sit in that action, but they won't actually be dropped from my class. I need to click confirm. So I'm going to go ahead and click confirm. This may take just a minute. Oh, there we go. Up at the top, you'll see it's green, which tells me it's not an error. I dropped 2 students successfully. It tells me which students I dropped, and I'm done. If I go back to that class, I should see my class without those students. So I'm just going to go back in real quick to make sure. Yep, 8 Murphy is gone, and my other one is gone as well. And that's all you have to do to drop your students.
Okay, so does anybody have any questions about how the new drop page is going to look and how the rosters will look? Because it is different than how we're currently doing it. And this is going to change in February. Once the late start classes begin, that's when we're going to roll this out. So you'll definitely see a change during that time period. The other piece that's going to be changing is going to be wait list on how it looks. Catherine, you have a question?
Will the roster be available for the entire semester? The dates that are on there is just for dropping, right?
Right, so they're just for dropping. So each roster will have different dates. So like the W roster, to drop a student with the W because they stopped attending, you'll be able to drop a student all the way up to the last date to drop a student with the W. But then after that, you can't drop a student normally anyway. So once the last date to drop with the W happens, a student has to get a grade.
When we go in to see our roster, how we normally have all the students listed, and at the bottom we can see their emails and we can copy all their emails, is that whole screen going to look different?
So we'll show you that here in the next videos coming up, so you can see. That's just the drop roster.
Okay.
Okay. Let me check the chat box to see if there's any other questions. Do you need to go through the same process even if no students need to be dropped? So yes, you'll need to go through the process to go in and submit it, just so we can see that you submitted it and the roster is correct. So I will bring up the next video of the wait list.
Oh, wait a minute. I do have that question. So regarding what the person just asked, we still have to go through the drop roster and and just even if all of our students are in the classes.
Right, so you'll just submit it. Yeah, you'll submit it even though there's nobody to drop. So it shows that you submitted the census, just the census one. So you'll go through and complete that prior to census, submit it, and it'll show that you submitted it in the date and time that everybody on that roster is correct. So census, just so everybody understands what census is, on census day, you should have dropped prior to that anybody not attending, right? So on census day, only the students that have been attending are in your class on that roster, because you're certifying to the state of California that those are the students that are in your class and they've been attending, and those are the students that we get paid for based on who is enrolled on census day. So you as a faculty member are responsible for dropping anybody prior to census that are not attending. Technically, after census, if they stop attending after census, you technically don't have to drop them. You only are responsible for dropping a student if they stop attending prior to census.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's a question in the chat, Michelle. It says, what if the student is both no-show and drop before census? Which one should you choose? You should probably be choosing the no-show because they're attended, and that goes into compliance with our Department of Ed with financial aid.
Yes.
If they never attend your class, they don't earn the money that they're getting for financial aid. And we need to know if they never attended. If they did attend and they attended one day or part of a meeting, you want to drop them before census and you have a last date of attendance for that student. But if it's a no-show because they never attended, you want to utilize the no-show button.
Right. So we want to be very careful about dropping students for census, right? Because we have different populations of students that are required to take 12 units. And some of those are international students, athletes, and veterans get paid based on the amount of units that they're enrolled in. So if we're not dropping students properly and dropping them prior to census, if they stop attending and we allow them to go all the way through the end of the semester and then realize, oops, they haven't been attending, then we have an issue, right? We have to, in admissions and records, we have to certify to Homeland Security that an international student is taking 12 units. If at the end of the semester, we get somebody saying, sorry, they never attended, I forgot to drop them, that's a problem, a huge problem. Homeland Security is not very nice about having an international student on campus and them not being enrolled in 12 units. We have to go in and say, why did we do that? Why were they only enrolled 9? So we have to go in and make corrections and do all of that. Same thing with athletes. If we allow them to play in a game and they're competing and they truly weren't attending a class, that's a problem for us. We have to go in and certify that they're attending a certain amount of units to be eligible to play in sports. And then veterans, of course, are paid based on the amount of units that they're enrolled into. So if we paid out on 12 units and they really were only enrolled in 9, then what happens is the college is responsible for trying to get that money back from the student. We don't have to, they don't have to pay it back to the VA, they have to pay it back to the college. And a lot of times the college eats that money. So we're responsible for making sure that they are enrolled in the right amount of units. So along with all other students too, right? We have to make sure that our processes are done correctly so that when the auditors come in, we're not getting paid for students that technically didn't really take a class. And if we're doing it at the end of the semester, we're already getting paid for those students, which is a red flag for auditors.
Catherine has a question. She has her hand raised. Catherine, go ahead and ask your question.
Can we submit the drop form several times? So like on day 1, if a student doesn't show up, I automatically drop them so waitlisted students can join. But then in week 2, if I have to drop another student, can I go in and submit it again? Or is it just
Right.
supposed to be done once?
You have different rosters. So you have your no-show roster. So you can use that for your first day of class. On the students that aren't attending, you can go in and do no-show. And then your census roster is the second week roster. You can go in and drop through that during that time period.
I'm a little confused by the multiple rosters. Is it one page and when you click no show, that's a roster? And if you go to the same page and if you click drop before census on the same page, that's considered a second roster?
So there's 3 different rosters that you can choose from. You can go in and do the first day roster, which is the no-show roster. You can also go into the census roster, and that one's the one that you want to do the Sunday prior to census, right? The census day. That one you're required to go in and complete. If you want to just wait and just do the census roster to drop everybody, that's fine too. You can still pick no show on that. And then the W1 is after no show, after census. So after census, that census roster and the no-show roster will not be available. You'll see that the deadline has already passed and you won't have access to it. But if you're wanting to go in and drop a student, you can with the W roster.
So when the lady was showing the white page and she had multiple links going vertically down the page and she said, yours might be different, but you should have these same active links.
Yes.
There's going to be 3 rosters linked there.
3 separate rosters, yes, and they'll have different deadlines.
So there's a day 1 roster on there?
There's a day 1 roster on there, which is called the no-show roster. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So does that make more sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right, do we have any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
So if like, let's say it's an online class and it's more about just some time in the week participating rather than the first day. The first day roster doesn't actually have to be completed, right? As long as we complete the census roster.
That is correct, Michael.
Okay.
Yeah, the census roster is the one that's required. The rest of them is just there if you want to use them. Okay, all right. I'll go ahead and move forward with the wait list. The wait list is definitely different. It has the same functionality, but it looks different. And there's a couple of different features on there. So I definitely want everybody to see that. So let me get that one started. Oops. It's not.
Hi, everybody. It's Triple Play Week again.
I'm having difficulties. Hold on just a second. I apologize. I don't know why that's. Shoot, my video left me.
This video is to show you how you can manage the functions of your waitlist in Banner 9. So we're going to look at a few different things. We're going to look at looking at your class list so you can see your waitlisted students. We're also going to look at how you can adjust your maximum enrollment in classes that have a waitlist. We're going to look at stopping the automatic roll, and we're going to look at how you can drop your waitlisted students. So we're going to start where we start for everything in Banner 9 that has to do with faculty, and that's from the Faculty Services page. So the first thing I'm going to show you just really quickly is where you can see who's waitlisted for your class. So I'm going to start by going to this class list right here. I'll click on that. And then you'll see this screen a lot when you're using Banner 9. I'm going to dismiss this notification here. And you can see I'll have my list of courses here, and I'm just going to choose the one where I want to go look at my wait list, and that's going to be this Meds B52 class. Now, just a reminder, it seems like you should click on the title or the CRN, but what you really want to do is just move your cursor till this row is highlighted and click anywhere else in that row, not on those two things. So that's what I'm going to do right now. And it's going to take me to my class list. And so if I scroll down, this is my class list. These students are all actually enrolled in the class. But if I come back up, you'll see I've got another tab. There's class list and there's waitlist. So I'm just going to click on waitlist. And you see I've got 2 students here that are on my waitlist. I can click the box next to their name, and that will just let me send an email to those students. But that's not what I want to do right now. So this part is just to show you, here's who's on your waitlist. All right, so after we look at who's on our waitlist, we're going to go back to this Faculty Services page. Again, this is where everything of a faculty member is that you're going to want to deal with. So now I'm going to go towards the bottom of the list, and I want to take a look at adjusting the max enrollment for waitlisted courses. Now, I want to preface this by saying, make sure if you're doing this that you have approval of your department to make any changes to maximum enrollment. But this is a way that you can move students from your waitlist into your class if no spaces have opened up. So first, it's going to ask me to select my term. So I'm going to choose spring 2022. And then I'm going to select a course from this drop-down list. And again, that's that Meds B52 class that I was looking at. And then I'll get a page that looks like this. And the only thing I'm going to want to make any changes to is right down here where it says enter the new maximum enrollment number. And I would change this right here. Let's say I want to change this to 17 instead of 16.
Okay, I just want to bring up that it's really important. This piece right here is the most important part. So you don't want to ever go below your maximum because you can have issues with the students that are enrolled in your class. So we want to always go higher than the number that's in there. So you don't ever want to go below. And you have the ability to go below, so you really need to you need to pay attention when you're updating this because it can cause a lot of problems with your class list, okay? So that was a functionality that we weren't able to change when Lucian was fixing the system for us to have it be the way we wanted it. So you have to make sure you put a higher number than what is in the maximum number.
So I'm going to go ahead and make that change and click submit. Now, because of the way my course is set up, I can't go above 16, but you probably won't have that issue. But again, like I said, make sure that you have department permission before you make that change. Okay, so that's how you can change your maximum enrollment number. So the last thing we want to take a look at is this section that's next to the bottom here, manage specific waitlisted course. There's a few different things that we're going to do on this page. Again, I'm going to select a term, and I'm choosing spring 2022. I'm going to select a course, that Meds B52 again, and I have several different things that I can do on this page. All right, so the first thing I want to point out is this button here that says include an auto registration. Now, if a spot opens up in your course and you have a wait list, if this is checked, then at night when changes are made in Banner, your first student on the wait list should automatically get moved into that course. Now, if there's a reason why you don't want your waitlisted students to be moved, say it's too late in the semester, they won't be able to catch up, you're going to want to uncheck this. And in the past, we would have called that stop automatic roll. So go ahead and uncheck that if you don't want your waitlisted students to be automatically moved. Now, if you're ready for the waitlist to be closed, you're going to want to check this box. Any more students added to your waitlist. So again, this one stops the automatic roll. This one will stop any more students from being able to be added to your waitlist. And if you make any changes there, just make sure to hit save. All right, so if I want to uncheck close the waitlist, I would hit save right there. And then if I scroll a little bit, there's a few more things that we might want to do here. So if you want to drop the students who are on your waitlist for whatever reason, you can go ahead and check the name of whichever student you want to drop. And then you would click this button that says drop selected waitlist. That is to drop these students. So if I click both of these and then I click this, it will take these students off of my waitlist. The last thing that you can do on this page is you can email students. If there's some reason that you need to send a communication to your waitlisted students, like, hey, please remember to show up to class if you want to be considered to be moved into the class, you could send that email from this page as well. So those are the things that you can do on this Manage Your Waitlist page. And that's everything you need to know about making changes for your waitlisted students.
Okay, do we have any questions on the wait list? Are these walkthrough videos listed in your MPC website or will they be? Yes, they will be, Chris. We're going to be posting them. I'll be sending out an email out to everyone with all of the information on all the changes. Yes, you can reopen the wait list once it has been closed. You can restart it. Do we have any other questions? Because this is a big change. I just want to make sure everybody understands the changes.
Real quick, Michelle, sorry. Will the changes show up immediately? You might have said this at the beginning and I missed it. Or are we waiting till that February? Does everything change in February?
Everything will change in February when they do the upgrade, and we're trying to shoot for when the late start classes begin. That's our kind of timeline that we're trying to do it. We're wanting to wait till students are past the main semester, our regular semester, past that point, and only doing it on a small group of the late start classes. So it'll be easier on everyone.
Oh, sorry, it's Carolyn again. I have another question.
Sure.
Lately, I've been tending to do the early college, it's the high school students.
Uh-huh.
And now this time around, I'm going to be doing high school students with a mixture of regular college students. So, are they going to be on two different roles, or what do I do if I need to drop somebody? Will they be all be on one roll, or will they be on separate roll sheets?
So you're talking about like a dual enrollment or concurrent enrollment? Okay, so dual enrollment class.
Well, what's the difference? Sorry.
So a dual enrollment class is taught at the high school.
Oh no, I don't do
Your
that.
regular day.
Okay.
And concurrent is when you're teaching a regular class at Bakersfield College or online through Bakersfield College, and you have a high school student that is enrolled in your class.
Okay, so it's honestly just been online classes. So I wouldn't know if it was
Right. So you wouldn't know. They're just intermingled all together on the roster.
okay. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Bonnie even said they'll be on the same roster. Yeah, we don't separate those. Everybody's on the same roster, so you see everyone. So, okay, do we have any other questions? Anybody have any questions other than what we showed you? Do you have questions that you're dying to ask admissions and records on how to drop students, how to add them, what an EW is, how to process it? You're very quiet. No question. So everything is clear. Everyone knows exactly what they need to do then. Kimberly, I'm like, come on now. I'm the talking head. You know what, that would be great, and I would be happy to do that. And just like I did this last semester with grades, when, we were trying to get grades in on time, and I set up that Zoom meeting for everybody to come in and come to see me if they needed help. I was surprised that I had about 9 faculty that actually showed up during my Zoom open session for helping with grades or rosters or whatever. And they showed up and needed help. So I can definitely do some of those to assist and see, flex. We can, I don't think they would be called flex, but like you said, right. Yeah. Probably, and that would be fine. I would be fine with that. Yeah. Sure. Okay, so can you show us how to find the student emails from the roster? So it depends on which roster. Normally, if you click on the name, it will send you to the email, but like on the one roster, the wait list, if you clicked on the box down below, it said that you could email them. So each roster works a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. Right, and you would just check all of them and then hit the email below and it would email them. There's an email box at the bottom.
So if I want to email multiple sections at the same time, normally I copy all emails into a BCC. So now I'd have to email each section independently. I can't just copy all emails and put it in a mass email. I'd have to check all the boxes and then send the email out for however many sections I have.
Let me check on that and see how that functionality would work. That question hasn't come up yet. And I don't normally have access to your rosters like you do. And the environment right now is not available for me to go into and to actually show you the environment because they're doing some work on it. So, so you're asking about copying all the emails and for the wait list or for your ones that are registered?
For the roster, you can click a button that says all student emails and a box pops up at the bottom where all of their emails are listed separated by commas. And so you can copy and paste that into a email and you can grab the same thing, all the student emails from a different section and then your third section. So when you send out an email, you have multiple sections that you're sending to by pasting all the email addresses into a BCC.
Okay.
If you have to click a box and send it out of BandWeb, then I would think that you'd have to send the email independently to each section rather than one mass email to all sections.
It's supposed to be the same except for this functions that I'm showing you. So, but let me just write down these questions and ask.
Yeah, I haven't done it that way, but as long as we can get that Excel sheet. And also the Excel sheet used to have student programs and majors listed, which I use so that if students were in my class and they were in some major that my class isn't required for, I would send that student an email and tell them, why are you taking it? Like that type of, is that still going to be available? Mm.
Yeah. Right. So there was a couple of questions in the chat box, and Jackie responded to the one about EWs. So EWs haven't changed. Our processes on the website. The one thing that that I want to bring to attention to faculty is that the student should never start the EW process with you. It should be started with admissions and records. So they start the process with us. They'll turn in the documentation to us for us to review to see if it meets the Title V regulation guidelines. And then at that time, we will send an email to the faculty member asking for the last date of attendance. The only thing that you're responsible for is giving us the last date of attendance for the student, because we want to verify that they did not take the final. So if they have taken the final, if it's during that finals week, it will automatically be denied. So we review it to make sure that it meets the requirements that are very strict within the Title V regulations on being able to withdraw on an EW. So
what does the EW stand for again? I forget. I'm sorry.
it's an extenuating withdrawal, and it's based on medical. So they have to have documentation during the semester that they're requesting to have the EW that shows that they have some type of something medical or extenuating that has happened to them during that time period. It can be because they lost their job, or, and they can't afford, to take classes. Maybe they had to move and they don't have a computer now or whatever. There's all kinds of reasons that they can use, but it has to be within the guidelines of Title V.
Okay, and what happens? Do they just come back later to take the final or to
No.
the class? Okay.
No, they do not take the final. They're not allowed to take the final. So,
I mean, do they finish the class at a later date, or do they have to retake the class?
no, the extenuating withdrawal is they're withdrawing from the class. So they're not going to finish anything. It's going to state an EW on their official transcript that they had an extenuating withdrawal, and it will not count as a repeat if they're trying to repeat the course. It will count for them through financial aid, though. So they should always check with financial aid prior to asking for an EW, because it can impact their financial aid if they're a financial aid student.
One thing I'd like to add is when a student requests for an extenuating withdrawal, they're saying that they no longer can attend your class due to this extenuating circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had some situations in the past that a student has requested for EWs, but they end up staying in the class. So if they're reaching out to you saying that they're trying to drop the course with an extenuating withdrawal, they really need to think about dropping the class if they need to, and not continue to attend. One thing that I want to bring up to everybody is that if a student submits their documentation to admissions and records and we review it, we will send it out to you. But sometimes students are reaching out to you to say, hey, have you received my EW request? If we have not sent you the inquiry about them for the last date of attendance and if they've completed the final, it's because we don't have sufficient documentation to move forward for your request, right, for the request. So we're not going to email you the hundreds of emails that we receive in a semester to ask for a last date of attendance and your signature if we don't have the documentation that we need by auditors, because this is a highly audited item. So just wanted to make sure everybody understands that, because we get a lot of students that are reach out to faculty and they're like, well, where's my request? And we've already emailed them maybe 10 times in the semester saying, we need documentation. And one thing that I would like to add to this is that there's situations that students have, but they don't really have documents, like an actual document, but they've provided us pictures. We had a student in a situation last semester that their house burned down. They provided us proof of the address, right? But that the house burned down and that's why they couldn't continue. So there's different reasons, and that's why we need to review those documents or what they're providing A&R before we ask for the last date of attendance, for if they've completed a final, and for you to sign off on the drop exception form.
Right. I think the other thing to mention is that we do not give refunds for students that are dropping with an EW. They're responsible for paying for the course. there's no refunds. So if there's a student that's having an issue and they need additional assistance, or they're having whatever problem that they're having, and you think that you can assist them and give them extra time, then that's when I would recommend you giving them an incomplete and working with them to try to complete the course if they're almost finished. Otherwise, they can request an EW from admissions and records. And they would do that by going to our BC admission at kccd.edu. That is the email address that that the student should be emailing. Even faculty that have questions about rosters or dropping somebody should be going to that email address. And I put it, thanks Jackie, we put it at the same time. Jackie and I both get between 400 and 500 emails a day. Everybody CCs us and everybody emails us directly. And then we have to actually take those emails and forward them to the BC admission. Our staff get the BC admission listserv link, the ones that go in and do the processes, Jackie processes. So when he sends us something and says, hey, can you add this student or drop this student? I have a question about this or that. We end up forwarding that to the listserv. So it's faster if you just email the listserv than emailing us, because we have to wait until we go through our email to get to it and then forward it. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone. If a student is auditing a class, does his name show up on the class roster? Can he be dropped? So a student that's auditing a class is approved by you, the faculty member, to be able to audit the class, because they can't audit the class until the class has begun and all the seats are full, right? We don't let students just audit classes. So you will see them on the roster, but it will be on there as an A instead of being registered. So, and then at the end of the semester, it'll ask you to put in the grade, and it can only be audit. It should automatically be an AU that's on there. There should not be a grade of any kind. So,
And I'd like to add, for the audits, we do not process an audit until the first day of that class. Regulations for audit is a seats available basis. I'm sorry. So you have to be able to put all your students from your waitlist into the class before you allow somebody to audit. We cannot override your waitlist, because what you're saying with an audit is that I have available seats for the student that's audit, not somebody else that's going to take that class for credit. We need to be able to allow the students that are taking it for credit first before you can allow a student to audit the class. Second, with audit is have the form housed in A&R. And there's been some forms that have been circulating because of the remote environment that we are emailing it to people. Students are trying to turn them in. They've been trying to turn them in for the last week and a half, and we will not accept the form because the form is not turned in when that class is started. It has to be turned in the first day of the class. It cannot be turned in prior to that, because if you turn it in prior to class, you're not allowing other students to get into the class that should be taking it for credit first. If a student registers for the class and then wants to change it to audit, that is a violation of the regulations, and it's on our catalog. So the student cannot change from audit to credit or from credit to audit in the middle of a semester. If they're wanting to audit it, they need to reach out to admissions and records. We'll tell them the process and we'll give them the form based off the first day of your class. And we'll give them that form, and then they'll reach out to you to get that filled out with the department chair. But just a quick reminder that if you have a wait list, we cannot override your wait list to put the student into as an audit.
Right. And I think the big distinction on what an audit is normally a student will audit a class that they've previously taken. Maybe they did well in it and it's been a couple of years and they want to have a refresher before they take the next level. A perfect example would be an ASL class, right? They took ASL 1 and it's been a while, and now they're wanting to take ASL 2, but they want a refresher before they go in and take ASL 2. They would go in and audit ASL 1 to get the refresher and then go in and register for ASL 2. But because of the repeat rules, they can't go in and just take ASL 1 because they've already passed it with a passing grade. So there would be a restriction on them repeating it. So the only way that they would be able to get a refresher on it is by doing an audit. So the other big piece with an audit is that we do not credit for a student taking an audit by the state of California, like a regular student enrolling in it for the class. We get $15 for them to take the audit. Is it per credit? Yeah, $15 per credit compared to our regular fee that we charge them for enrollment fee of $46 per credit
Sorry,
if somebody's taking it.
per class.
Yeah, per class. So, and then we also get paid on top of the $46 from the state. For an audit, we do not. They're filling a seat, and it should be the last option to fill the seat is an audit student. Okay, so I hope that explains that. Audit students do not receive a grade. They can turn in work if they want, but they don't have to. They literally are there just to observe. They don't have to do anything.
Can a student audit the class if they previously failed it and they want like a preview before they enroll in it?
They can, sure.
Would it count as, once they enroll in it, for a grade? Would that count as a repeat?
No, audits don't count as a repeat. It's not a real enrollment, so we don't get credit for it. That's why it's a last resort on filling it, the seat with an audit person. It really is a refresher for them or for them to get knowledge of it. A lot of times, too, faculty that are going to be teaching a different class and they've never taught it before, and somebody's teaching it, sometimes they'll come in and they'll audit the class to see how the other faculty member is teaching the class. We've had that quite a few times, but it really is just to observe. It's not for a grade. It's just for their knowledge. That's it. Any other questions? You still have us for about 15 minutes. So I think, I can't remember what time this ends. Michael, do you know what time we end? I'm not sure. So we're here. Sorry, Bonnie, what?
It ends at 9:15.
Oh, 9:15. So we have plenty of time. If you have any more questions that you're wanting to ask us, I mean, we're here for you to answer whatever questions that you want to ask if you have anything.
I have a question about submitting the course grades at the end of the course and the last date of attendance. Has that changed as well?
The only thing that's changed with that piece is now you can put your grades on an Excel spreadsheet and you can upload them to Banner. And we'll be doing a video on that as well. So instead of going in and doing each one individually, you can upload an Excel spreadsheet and do it, boom, all at one time, which will make it really fast. But otherwise, it's the same process, Bonnie. Mm. It's so funny that you mentioned that because actually Jennifer Achen from Financial Aid and I have been working on a process and an email to send out to everybody today. And so we have a list of things for people to look for on their rosters. We know that this is a huge issue, right? And we really want to thank faculty for and helping and identifying these students because it's definitely difficult. But I would recommend once you find somebody that you think is fraudulent, that you email Jennifer Achen and myself and let us know the names of the students and the CRN of the students so that Jennifer and Financial Aid can then go in and do her verification process. And she will then reach back out to the faculty and let A&R know if the student is fraudulent based on their verification process. And then what will happen is they'll place a hold on their side and A&R will place a hold on our side. So we have two different holds. One so that they don't get any more financial aid, and then the hold on admission side will prevent them from being able to register again. So we'll do that process, and that's going to be prior to them, prior to the start of the semester. Once the semester begins, then we'll ask you to do the same process, but you'll need to go in as faculty and drop the student because we cannot drop them once the semester begins. There are only two reasons that we can drop a student, and one is for non-participation, non-attendance, right? Depending on if it's online or in person on the rules on that. And then two is because of student conduct. And if they're fraud, it would have to go through a student conduct process and open up a case, and that's like a huge process. So they're not going to go through that process. So the only way to do that is dropping them for non-attendance or non-participation as a faculty member up to census. And then after that time, you would notify us to let us know, hey, we think this student is fraudulent. We can go in and do our verifications and stuff still and place our holds and make them verify with us, but we can't go in and drop them once the class begins. So we ask you to really go in and look at the rosters and cross-check them prior to the beginning of the semester. And the email that we're going to be sending out will have some more detailed information on there on what to look for. So that should be coming out sometime this morning. Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's a good point, Kimberly, because that came up yesterday in our other flex session. It's different for being in person, right? Because the student can actually show up and sit there and be in person and they're participating because they showed up to class and they have the right to fail. But online, it's a little bit different. So I'll ask Nick or Bill Mosley to write up something so that we can send that out as well to everybody so they are aware of the differences, because that definitely came up yesterday and I'm sure it's going to continue to come up. So that's a good point.
One thing I'd like to add too is that if you don't drop your student for whatever reason by your census date, like it's been mentioned, and you try to submit a drop exception form for non-attendance, the student may already be dispersed for financial aid and then have to pay that money back. So that's why it's really important for you to drop students for non-attendance prior to census instead of drop exception form at any other time, because the disbursements for financial aid is 1 week before the semester starts, and then they get their second disbursement by census. So if we're doing a drop at the end of the semester because you've noticed somebody on your roster, it'll drastically impact the student. They may have to pay back 500, 1,000, or even their whole financial aid if they're trying to drop more than one class. So it's really, really important that if you're looking at your rosters regularly, yes, sometimes you miss them and it's fine, but try to get them in sooner rather than later. We get a lot of inquiries coming in at the end of the semester when grades are due, and we don't get them done in a timely manner. So then grade change cards are having to be submitted because grades are entered. And it definitely affects financial aid and Department of Ed compliance.
I have a question because I oftentimes get students who mysteriously disappear after census date. And how long should, and then I say, hey, you have to show up for class, or do you want me to drop you and or withdraw you, whatever. And they always beg, oh, please, I'm, this or that happened and I'm coming back to class. And then a couple times they do, but most of the time they rarely do. So I'm like holding on, waiting for them to come back and participate in class. And then it becomes like this waiting game for me. How long should I wait for a student who's begging me to keep them in class after they've stopped coming? Do you guys have any kind of words of wisdom on that? Okay, no, thank you so much. Thank you.
So the Title V answer would be this. So as a faculty member, you are responsible for dropping students up into the day prior to census. As long as you, on census day, those are the students that have been attending and are attending your class on census day, because that's the date that we get paid for from by the state of California. You are not responsible for having to drop them after that. If you wish to drop them after that, you can. My recommendation would be, if you are having students that have been attending up to census and they are have been there and then they kind of slow down and aren't attending anymore, to reach out to them, to check on them, to see how they're doing. A lot of times they might be having an issue or might need tutoring or might need some other kind of assistance that we can help them with that will get them to come back to class. Sometimes they just need to know that somebody cares, right? And that if you care and you call and check on them, a lot of times they might come back. Some might be at the point where, you know what, no, they're not going to come back. It doesn't matter what we do, but at least we tried. You don't have to drop them if you want to. You can after that for non-attendance, like Kimberly said, as long as it's within that guideline that you put on the syllabus that you're following. So I hope that makes sense.
Thank you. Thank you very much, both of you. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll add one thing there that we have received some drop exception forms for students that have attended because they stopped participating at some point or stopped attending classes, depending on online or face-to-face. But one of the components is that if a student we drop without their signature after they've already participated, that is a compliance issue with Department of Ed, because Michelle mentioned this yesterday. If a student is going to class every single day, but they do no work, they are earning that F grade. So we want to make sure that if a student's going to class, if it's face-to-face and they're just not turning anything in, they are fully participating in attendance and they're earning the grade. I think it's just a little caution though, because later on they'll come back and says, I never turned anything in. Why do I have an F on my transcript? Can you please change my grade? So those are just cautionary things that I want to put on everybody's radar, because that happens quite a bit in admissions and records, and students only have 1 year to dispute their grade. And we do ask several questions before they dispute those grades, because a lot of the times it is they did participate, they just failed to drop. So that might be a recommendation too. If you you reach out to students and they no longer want to participate, or they're no longer interested in your class after they've attended, you might want to recommend them to drop the class. That way they don't come back and says, well, now I owe financial aid because you dropped me.
Mhm. Exactly. And I see that Bonnie has a question on here about what happens if I certify the roster on Friday of week 2 and a student adds a class on Saturday. Do we need to close the class as well? I think that if the student adds on Saturday and they can complete the class in the amount of time left, because they've already missed the first 2 weeks of class, then that's up to you as a faculty member. If you don't think that they're going to be able to complete the class, like I know some biology and chemistry classes, they wouldn't probably be able to, right? So a lot of times they'll close it so they can't get in. So I think that determines on the type of class it is. Just remember, if you're dropping students, if you drop them the Friday before census, you're dropping them prior to the refund period, so they'll get a refund. If you drop them on Saturday or Sunday, they will be charged for the class. So if you wait and process your census on Saturday or Sunday, the student will still pay the enrollment fee for the class, even though they're not going to be, even though they never attended. So there is a 2-day period there between refund and the census day.
And
Right.
adding to that, the refund means that they don't have to pay for the class, because we do have a small population of students that do pay for classes and they drop after the refund date. And they're thinking, I don't want a refund, but I don't want to pay for the class. That technically is what it means. The refund date is for them not to be charged for the class. If you drop them after that, they're responsible for those fees.
Right. Catherine, you have a question?
Yeah, a question about online for non-participation. I have assignments set up for twice a week. And if a student submits something on the first day, but then halfway through the week doesn't, and then the first half of week 2 doesn't, can I drop them at any point just for missing one single assignment during the first 2 weeks? Because otherwise it's the face-to-face classes normally meets twice a week. So 2 weeks of material would be 4 assignments. Do I have to wait for that 4 assignments? Or if they miss one during the first 2 weeks, can I drop them so a waitlisted student can add? Like, what are the rules there for non-participation in an online course?
Kimberly, do you have an answer? Yes. I would rather them drop the student than leave them in and us get paid for them and them truly not be attending. So, but if you go and you drop them, you need to make sure that you have a seat to add them back in, right? Especially if they're on campus, but you were talking about online, so I think it should be fine.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a different kind of question, just to take you a second. I have a 12-week course starting February 7 to May 6. And I see the 20%, the census date, the 20% date is February 24, which is that I just want to confirm with you, because for the 16-week class, you know, the 20% date is at the end of the second week. This is almost the end of third week. I'm sorry.
What, can you give me the dates that start and end?
The start date is February 7, and the 20% date is February 24.
But when is the end date of the course?
The ending is May 6.
And how many times a week does the class meet?
It's an online.
Oh, it's online. Okay, let me just look.
20% is February 24 and 60% is March 29.
Yeah, I think that that would be correct. It usually does it by a, it's an automatic date that gets populated based on it being a short-term class. So we can double check it and make sure. What is the CRN for the class?
The CRN is 34117.
Okay, yeah, we'll check it and make sure that it's correct, but that sounds like it's correct right now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Right, they're all different. Oh my gosh, that is the truth. So we still have time for more questions if you have more questions. No? Okay, well, I hope everybody has a great spring semester. Please remember the BC admission at kcc.edu. That's the best way to get a hold of us. And you do have your feedback form in the chat box. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and spend with